Hello, fourth graders. We are starting Unit 3, which is all about fractions. Make sure if you haven't looked at your Unit 2 math test that you take a look and see how you did on that. In Unit 3, we will be using some fraction circles, which I will talk about at the end of this video. But for today's lesson, you are going to need a whiteboard marker, and eraser, and your math journal. At the end, you'll also need a pair of scissors. Remember, if your whiteboard marker is kind of drying out a little bit, make sure you ask a parent to purchase you a new one or two. In Lesson 3.1, we're going to be talking about equal sharing. So go ahead and get those whiteboards ready. And on your whiteboard, we're going to start with some math warm-ups. In Math Message, it says 2 brothers go to lunch and share 3 8-inch pizzas equally. How much pizza does each brother get? They are hungry. Be prepared to share a drawing you could use to solve the problem. So what I want you to do in your whiteboard is I want you to begin by going ahead and drawing 3 circles. Make them fairly large that they cover your board. You don't want to do them too small that you're not able to divide them up. So go ahead and make 3 circles fairly large. Oops, sorry about that. 1, 2, and 3. Not very round, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and know that each brother is going to share them equally. So would you go ahead and divide up those pizzas as if 2 people were sharing them? Go ahead and do that on your whiteboard right now. Well, since there's just 2 of them, I could divide each pizza in half. So go ahead and divide yours in half if you haven't already divided them. Let's call them brother number 1. So brother number 1 gets 1/2 of the first pizza, 1/2 of the second, 1/2 of the third. Brother number 2, go ahead and write these in. So if I take brother number 1, together he gets 1 full pizza and 1/2 of another one. That is one way to do it. You may have come up with another way, but you can see we're just setting the foundation for working with fractions today. Go ahead and erase your whiteboard and we'll try one more. Maybe 2 we'll see before we get into the math journal. Second one, whiteboard is clear. 6 hikers share 4 pounds of trail mix equally. How many pounds of trail mix does each hiker get? So we're going to look at pounds. That would be the whole we're talking about. And this is a typical trail mix. It often contains some sort of nuts and maybe some dried berries or even M&Ms. But it's something that would give energy to a hiker. So we have 6 hikers and they have 4 pounds of trail mix. So I'm going to imagine that they are in bags. So I'm thinking that these might kind of look like Ziploc bags. Would you go ahead and make 4 squares? Each one of those squares is going to represent 1 pound of trail mix. Now, if we have 6 hikers, I'm going to divide each one of these into 6. Would you please do that by dividing in half and then 2 lines horizontally across? Would you do that for the remainder of your 3 rectangles? Do this on your whiteboard with me. So that would be like if I laid the Ziploc up flat and I kind of just divided it with my hand by pushing the other trail mix aside. Now, remember, I have 6 hikers. So what I want you to do is on this first one, just number. Hiker number 1 is going to get that portion, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Would you please do that for each of the rectangles? Go ahead and finish that on your whiteboard. Now what I want you to do is I want you to figure out how much each hiker would get. How much would each hiker get? Well, let's imagine I were hiker number 1. I would get this portion of one bag, this portion of the next bag, this portion of the next bag, the pound bag, and now, how many portions do I get? I get 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many equal sections is each pound bag divided up into? 6. So each hiker would get 4/6 of a pound. Go ahead and put away your whiteboard for the time being. We're going to go ahead and look in journal page 68. Journal page 68. Use drawings to help you solve the problem. Solve the problem in more than one way. Show your work. And the reason we're doing it more than one way is tomorrow we're going to be talking about equivalent fractions. So this kind of is what it would look like to find a fraction that names an amount in more than one way. So imagine 3 friends share 4 chicken quesadillas equally. How many quesadillas did each friend get? So down in the bottom, you have a little bit more space than I do, so I might kind of go down to the bottom of this. One way is I could go ahead and draw my 4 quesadillas. Please go ahead. Remember, it's 3 friends sharing 4 quesadillas equally. We are going to do this 2 different ways, so make sure you leave yourself enough space to do one on the bottom as well. Well, if I have 3 friends, if I just divide each one into thirds, go ahead and do this with me in your math journal on page 68. Once you have them divided into thirds, I'm just going to count my friends. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So friend number 1, friend number 2, friend 3. Friend 1, 2, 3. Please do this with me in your math journal. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, imagine that friend 1 is going to count how many pieces? 4 pieces. So that friend is going to get 4 pieces. That's the top number, what we call the numerator. The bottom number, or the denominator, because it's down underneath the line, how many equal sections is each quesadilla in? Thirds. Now, we wouldn't usually say I get 4 thirds. We would say 1 1/3. Let's try this a different way. Let's do the same thing. Please draw your 4 quesadillas, and this will be at the bottom of your page. Mine's beside it. Yours is down below. Now, another way to do it would be, let's just say, go ahead and draw those 4. I'm going to ask you to take a picture of your journal page and upload it. Person number 1 gets a whole quesadilla. Person number 2 gets a whole quesadilla. Person number 3 gets a whole quesadilla. And then we take this last one and divide it equally. Person 1, 2, and 3. So each person's going to get 1 quesadilla, 1 full one, and 1 piece out of the 3 equal pieces in the last quesadilla. Now we're going to move on to page 69. Page 69. Number 2, use drawings to help you solve the problem. Solve the problem in more than one way and show your work. A group of 4 soccer players brought 6 gallons of water to the tournament on Saturday. Must have been a hot day out. If the players shared the water equally, how many gallons of water did each player get? So remember, we have 4 soccer players and 6 gallons. So I'm going to do what I did previously. I'm going to draw a circle to represent a gallon of water. So 1 gallon, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Would you do this in your math journal with me on page 69? Now, remember, I have 4 soccer players. So I could divide each one into 4s. They each would get 1/4 of a gallon. Again, remember, at any point in time, if I go a little bit too quickly, feel free to pause your video. Again, I would number soccer player 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I'm soccer player number 1, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I get 6 equal parts of each gallon. And each gallon is in how many parts? 4. Here's another way to do it. Let's draw those 6 gallons again in your math journal on page 69. 1 gallon, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. What if we just took and gave gallon 1 to player 1? Do this with me. Player 2 gets the 2nd gallon. Player 3 gets the 3rd gallon, and player 4 gets the 4th gallon. Then I could divide the next ones in half, and guess what? Half to player 1, half to player 2, half to player 3, and half to player 4. So if I'm player 1, I would get 1 full gallon plus 1 half, so 1 equal part. Each of those other gallons is in 2 equal parts. In other words, each player would get 6/4 gallons, or what we more typically would say would be 1.5 gallons. So remember to go ahead and number these, because you are now going to take a picture and upload it to your assignment. The last thing that I want you to do today is, if you look in the very back of your math journal, the last couple of pages, activity sheets 7, 8, and 9, you're going to see 9 fraction circles. You are going to cut along the dotted line. So for number 1, it's just going to be 1 circle. For number 2, you're going to cut it out, and then you notice you're also going to cut it down the middle. For the orange one, you'll cut here and then cut along these dotted lines. For the yellow one on the next page, you'll divide it into 4s and cut along those dotted lines. Cut very carefully. I'm not going to give you a lot of extra work today so that you have time to do this and do it well. You will need to put them into some sort of Ziploc bag if you would. You need to be able to keep those for the remainder of this unit, which will take us into 2021.